These are the node trees that I use on every project. Let me show you how they work. I'm Felipe Guerra, professional colorist. I've spent 10 years grading commercials, films, and music videos. And over that time, I built and refined this node tree system. Today, I'm going to show you every node, what it does, and how to build this system from scratch. So as I covered in my last video, I always work in groups so I can organize my footage better. You can create a group by scene, by camera, or whatever you want. And to create a group, you just select all of the footage that you want inside the group, right-click, and add into a new group. If you have a large project, you can also go into Lightbox and select all of your footage here in the same way. Let me show you what every node does. So first important thing before everything, I have my color space transform in the group pre-clip, and then at the end in group post-clip to go back to Rec 709. Without that, we would have a washed out image. So let's go to the start. My first node in group pre-clip is highlights, because whatever I do after, I want to be able to retrieve my highlights group level. For example, here. And this would happen in all of the shots. Look at the shirt here. And to create that node, I just used a qualifier with only the luminance channel and a selection of the highlights. My next node would be contrast or tone, where I can set the overall exposure of the group or the contrast, whatever you need in any way you want. You can use the HDR wheels to correct exposure. In this case, we're gonna leave it as it is. Next would be temperature. Here we can correct the temperature of the group. If the scene is feeling a bit too warm or cold, we can push it the other way if we want. Again, we're just gonna leave it as it is. That would be what I always do in group pre-clip. So now if we go here, clip level, this is what my typical node tree looks like. Let me turn everything off and start from scratch. Again, here I have my highlights in the same way that I did my group pre-clip. Next, I affect my tone with whatever tool you want. In this case, I added a bit of contrast, lift, and that's it. Then temperature, I used my printer lights to correct the temperature and a little bit of tint and temp. Also some offset. This node is to correct saturation. In this case, I just left it as it is. You don't have to use every node. It's just good to have it for when you need it. That's why I built this section over here. I don't like clutter, and I don't want to be creating power windows randomly for every shot. I want to have them at disposal anytime I want. So here, I built a radial vignette. You can check out my Power Windows video if you want to learn how to create all of this. Then I have my top vignette. Next would be the bottom vignette. And then a left vignette and a right vignette. After that, we go into noise reduction in case we need it. In this case, again, I left it as it is. And then it's my refinement and effects nodes. I built this as parallel nodes so they don't add on top of each other. The first one would be tone. You can use whatever tool you want to refine contrast. It can be curves, primaries, HDR wheels, whatever you're most comfortable with. For me, I tend to use my own plugin, Malgor Color Engine Pro, so I have more granular control on the curve. Let's just leave it as it is. In this case, I'm using again my own plugin, but this would be palette. So I can refine certain colors of the scene. Let's say we wanted more saturation in the sky or less. His skin a little bit more dense or less. I can achieve a similar result with native Resolve tools, but here I'm using my own plugin, Color Sculpt Pro, to have more granular control and the quality I expect from the tool. But you could use the color slice, color warper, you can use your curves, whatever tool you prefer to refine your palette. Then would be my 3 effects nodes. And these are basically blank nodes that you can use for whatever you want. In this case, I built a little mask around the hands that were feeling a bit too red and saturated. Then here I have Lens Pro, again, another plugin of my own that replicates the effect of a lens, adding diffusion, swirl, and other components from optical lenses. But again, you can achieve similar results with native Resolve tools. For example, if you go back to your radial vignette and add directional blur, soften it out, and you can achieve a bit of blur around the edges. So the image feels a little bit less digital. And the next node could be anything you want. Halation, an effect, a mask, glow. For whatever you need, the node is already there. And if you need more nodes, you can keep creating them like parallel nodes. A quick tip to rename your nodes easily is to go back to keyboard customization, search for label, nodes, and then add whatever shortcut you want. And now, if you push that, you can easily rename your new node. That would be clip level. Now we go to group post clip, and here is where the overall magic happens. So in the post clip is where we want to build the overall look of the film. So let me show you every node again. My first node is a qualifier with the skin, so I can control the skin better globally across the group. So if we wanted to lower down saturation, we do that globally. Also, I built a color compressor that compresses all of the selected colors into a target color, so we have less color variation. So if we compress hue, all of those selected hues will compress more towards that color. Same thing with saturation. And then luminance. This can be a great tool to achieve consistent skin tones across a whole group. And that's why I like to use it globally across the group. So if you have different groups and different scenes, you would do the same and correct the skin for each individual group. But then on top of that, if we create a layer node next to it and then connect the alpha channel to the lower layer and then reverse the selection, go back to the top layer, we can affect all of the image except the selection we have on the skin. So we can increase color separation doing whatever we want without affecting the skin. This is great to create looks and create color separation, as you can see here. And if the effect is too strong, we can just lower our initial grade. We can lower the output. We can also lower the output of the skin node. So whatever we did has some contamination on the skin. Not fully, just a touch, so it doesn't feel so out of world. Let's reset that for now. So all of these nodes, again, I'm using my plugins because that's what I do always, but I want to show you the concepts, not the plugins. So the concept that I treat on my first node is look, then palette, In sharpness, bloom and halation. Here I use again my own plugin, but it's to do a final touch or final pass of look. Then we have the CST, and finally we have some grain. So in look, what I do is I create a look for the whole of the group. So whatever look I create here, I can use a lot. I can use Dehancer, Genesis, Filmbox, whatever tool I want to create my look with, I put it here and I make it adjust the whole of the group. So my main look works for all of the group, as you can see here. It's the same look for every shot. And then I come back here and balance whatever I need to balance. Next would be palette. As I said, clip level. This is where I refine the colors of the group. So let's say we wanted the skies to be a bit more cyan. We can do that globally. So the whole group receives the same treatment, and that's part of my overall look. Then I would go into sharpness. Here I'm using my plugin, but the concept is the same. So here we can search for sharpen edges, and we can refine that to create the effect that we want. Then here I add my halation or bloom. You can use again whatever tool you want. And final look is an optional step, but one that I tend to do as well to integrate everything better. In this case, I'm adding my dune effect, but just a tad. And that again integrates all of the shots a bit better. To do this locally, again, you can use your curves, your color curves. Finally, we have the color space transform. In this case, we're coming from DaVinci White Gamut to Rec 709. And finally, we have grain, which is always optional depending on the project. Again, here I'm using my own, but you can use whatever grain you're most comfortable with. Finally, we reach timeline level. Here I have trim 1, trim 2, and my scopes. In this case, I'm using Nope Omniscope, which are my preferred ones. And trim is in case there's a final comment from the DP, director, or agency, or whoever, and wants to apply it to the whole of the film. So let's say they wanted just a bit more contrast, or lower down the exposure, whatever. All of those corrections live here. Now, some cool and useful tips. One of the benefits of having a fixed node tree, fixed meaning that it doesn't change and all of the shots have the same shape and the same numbers, is that if I create an adjustment here, let me do this just for demonstration, and I want this correction on all of the other shots, I can just select the rest of the clips, go up to color, ripple node changes to current group or selected clips, and just like that, it automatically applies the exact correction I made to every other shot. Now here's another tip that will save you a lot of headaches. A lot of times you build a look, you're happy with it, and then you get a note like, hey, I like it, but can we try it a bit darker or a bit warmer? Something like that. And the last thing you want is to destroy the grade you spent so much time on. The solution is versions. If you right-click here on the clip, you'll see version 1. That's the default. You can create a new one, and we get version 2. Let's call it colder. See those stacked numbers? That tells you that there are multiple versions of this clip. So now I can push it colder, and I can show you that version without touching my original. If I need to go back, I just load version 1. Nothing gets lost. And the really cool thing is that you can do this at the group level too, for the entire group. So let's say you build the overall look, you're loving it, and then the note comes in. Can we try all of this, but warmer? Again, you don't want to lose your grade. Go to groups, and you'll see versions here as well. Create a new version. Let's call it warmer. And now, whatever I adjust here affects the whole group. I can flip between the colder and warmer version without ever losing the previous one. If we want to go back, we just load it. And that's the complete node tree workflow I use on every project. Depending on the project, it might have small variations, a few more or fewer nodes, but at its core, it's essentially the same structure every time. I have made each of these node trees as PowerGrades that you can download for free in the description. Just import them into Resolve and adapt the workflow to your own projects. The download is completely free, but there's an optional contribution if you'd like to support the channel and help me keep creating resources like this. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and lets me keep making more of this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.